I'm Christy Bishop, and you're listening to the What Nobody Tells Us podcast. Each week, I'll be exploring a topic that's often stigmatized, misunderstood, or simply left unaddressed. And we're going to be shedding light on the things that nobody tells us, but that everyone should know. Let's get started. This week officially marks the 1-year anniversary of the What Nobody Tells Us podcast, and I can barely believe it. I mentioned this a little bit in last week's episode, but the idea of where I've come in a year and how everything has changed so much has really inspired the idea for today's show. And when I originally had this, it was a wild hair of an idea to share the what nobody tells us stuff behind some of life's most difficult moments. I could not have imagined where it would not only take me, but where it would take you, where it would take the people who are going through some of life's most difficult moments and who need the guide to getting through some of life's most difficult moments, who are wrestling with the anxiety and the overwhelm and the depression and the confusion, and also the hope and the joy and finding the glimmers that are all wrapped up in these crazy, crazy times when you're going through difficult times. And 52 weeks later, the depth of vulnerability and tears and laughter and advice that has been so graciously and so resiliently shared by all of the guests that I've had, I can't even be more grateful. I honestly can't. And I look back and I think about the topics we've had, like unexplained infertility and IVF and Alzheimer's and divorce, 2 episodes on divorce, pediatric cancer, caregiving, breastfeeding, giving up alcohol and the impact on your body and your mind and your spirit, perimenopause and menopause, generational trauma, losing a parent, losing a child, extreme weight loss, foster care, men's mental health, step parenting, healthy aging hacks, and one of my personal favorites because it's just so out there and it's so fascinating and I loved this guest, but human composting. Like, yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. And yes, you heard me right. But reaching this 1-year milestone for what nobody tells us and seeing how it's evolved, again, beyond anything that I could have ever predicted, because I was just starting it, right? Like there was no like, oh, this is where we're going to go. It was like, I just got to start this. I have to do this and we're going to see what happens. But the fact that it's turned into a full-fledged entrepreneurial venture has really made me think about the fact that I took a massive risk. I think a lot of you know, if you've especially been following my husband, Brian, aka Bald Brian, who was on the Adam Carolla show, for years and years. You've heard so much about our life and you've probably heard a lot about my career. And my career has been one of the marquee, elements of my life. And I've worked my ass off in marketing and advertising to become an executive. And I've led huge teams, worked on huge businesses, run offices, run agencies. And I've been so fortunate to have all the amazing experience I have. And that also came along with really big salaries and benefits and all crazy responsibilities and crazy travel and crazy pressure and overwhelm, especially when Brian was super sick and Tessa was young, and then through the pandemic. And this last year, I don't know what came over me. I had left my most recent advertising job and I just was like, fuck it, we're going to YOLO. We're going to YOLO. And I completely jumped off a ledge into the unknown. I had some severance built up, ready to go. And I was like, let's just see what happens. We're going to see what happens. Because also, anyone who works in corporate long enough or in agency land long enough, for as incredible as it is, at the end of the day, you're beholden to your company, you're beholden to your clients and the way that they want to do things. And sometimes that really disagrees with your own personal value system. And the older you get, the harder it is to deal with that. It's also really hard to give away your entire life to a company who at the end of the day does see you as a number from, on the P&L or profit and loss sheet, which makes sense. I completely understand it. But I was like, I'm trying something completely different, which again is the inspiration for this podcast. So it made me think, how did I get brave enough to make such a huge career pivot? Like I'm like taking an honest look back. And what steps have I taken in the past 1 year, 1+ years, if I'm being honest, to radically change my life? How did I face the fear? And how did I face the uncertainty and do it anyway? I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know. And then what would I tell you? What do I tell others who want to live a bigger and more firmly led, purpose driven life? You know, when we hear the word purpose a lot and it's kind of overused at this point in time, but I genuinely feel like what nobody tells us and helping people through some of life's most difficult moments, particularly as it relates to caregiving and parenthood and career and friendship and partnership and marriage and self and life overall, is genuinely my calling, and it's all come together. So I want to get like a little bit existential with you, like surprise, surprise, you know who you're talking to. And if you're listening, then I think you probably get the woo too, as I've said before. But I often stop and think that like we are literally just tiny ants in a giant rock. Like we are hurtling through space, we're circling a giant ball of fire. And when you really think about that, you're like, it's, you actually can't, like, you can't, like little humans, we can't wrap our head around that. It's like, I don't even know how we ended up here. It's a huge mystery. I'm sure, I know science has some theories, others have some other theories, but like the one huge indisputable fact is that we have one chance at this thing called life. We got one shot. That's it. And I want to make the most of it. And I have done an amazing job. I've worked so hard to establish myself. So the idea, or in marketing and advertising. So the idea that I just like jumped off a ledge, I was like, see ya, peace. And just jumped in a totally different direction and took my marketing know-how, my leadership superpowers, and my caregiving superpowers, and my empathy and empathic superpowers, and like put them all together. That's, I mean, it's crazy even to think back. So what I want to do is share some of the things that I did. And it's also in this week's newsletter. I have a top 10 list of the things that I've done that have radically changed my life. And if I'm being honest, have up-leveled it so much in ways I could have never imagined or predicted. So I want to share a few of these. I'm going to share like 3 or 4. And again, there's a top 10 list if you want to get the whole list. And by all means, please subscribe to my newsletter. Go to my website, christybishop.com, and you can do that. And it's a pretty good one. I love it. So number one, one other thing I just want to mention, like these are not huge things. Like some of them are kind of big, but like these are not all things that you're meant to do at one time. Not once. And I did not do them all at one time, but they are like tiny, tiny shifts that add up to this huge spark, like a huge revolution in your own life. And like the way that I look at them, they're basically dominoes. There's like a chain reaction. Once you start doing one and then you're getting used to it and you like add it into your routine and it's just second nature or becomes first nature, then you add another one. Then you add another one. And next thing you know, you've completely changed the way you're doing things. You've changed your outlook. You've changed the way you talk to yourself. You change the way you think about things, and you've changed your perspective on, life, love, the world, career, all of these things. And honestly, what it does is sorry, I'm actually getting over cold, so if my voice is a little grainy, that's why. And what it does is it can lead you to accomplish things that you once thought impossible. No, honestly, things that you thought you could never do before, things that you would never recognize your life by, you can do this in 1 year, and you can be more fulfilled than you've ever been before just by taking some simple steps. And like, please do not forget, you've got one, we all have one wild and precious life. So like, why not make it magical? Right? Like that's the point. Okay. So the first one I want to talk about is, and this is a huge one, it's really practicing future self journaling and visualization. And by that, I mean, like, that might sound overwhelming. Like, what do you mean I need to practice future self visualization? Like, holy shit, Christy, I don't even know where I'm going to be in 3 days, much less, 15 years. That's not the point. The point is that you start to open yourself up to the possibilities. So here's what this has looked like for me. I spend 5 minutes every morning writing, and sometimes it's the afternoon. It's whenever I can get myself in that quiet space. Like whenever you have 5 minutes that's uninterrupted, which if you have kids, it's hard, but we can all do this. Spend 5 minutes, let's start early in the morning, writing as though you're your ideal future self. You detail your day, detail your mindset. Like, where are you? Literally, where are you? What are you doing? What are you wearing? who are you surrounded by? Like, what's your environment? And if you close your eyes and you really make this feel real, like you tap into the feeling of what it's like to be doing the ideal things, like your dream goals, like it can be so granular. Like you want to, like I have a friend who's trying to have a second baby. I'm like, visualize yourself, like you and your current child and your husband and that fourth baby, like think of hear her voice, like feel her skin on your skin, like hear her little happy cries, like imagine breastfeeding, like imagine the four of you out in the world, like literally get yourself to feel what your future self is. And the more that you start, like without getting all like crazy quantum physics on you, but like this has been proven, the more you can actually feel yourself into this state, like you trick your brain. Our minds don't know what's real and what's not. Like that's the simple fact. They really don't. You can actually trick your brain into believing that this is real. And the more you can actually feel that this is real, you can literally make it real and attract it into your life. Like maybe not tomorrow, but the more that you practice this future self visualization and then write these things down, like just it starts to concrete and make real and make firm the feelings that you have about where you want to be. And those can change over time. You don't have to know exactly what it is. It doesn't matter. Is it super joy? Is it super content? Is it financial freedom? Like, do you envision yourself getting like, $1 million random check one day, whatever it might be? Or it might literally just be like, I want to I want to have a 2-bedroom home instead of living in a studio apartment. Like I want to be in the suburbs instead of in the middle of the city center. And I want to hear the birds chirping and see the chipmunks in my backyard, whatever it might be. But literally close your eyes and put yourself there and try like as often as you can go back. Like it's a little delulu and I'm all about the delulu. Like it helps us delusional. It helps us get through the tough times, but it also brings the best of times to us. So like embrace the Delulu, embrace the future self visualization, write it down. And the more you can go back to that space, the better. All right. Another one. I started doing this the more I realized like we all think that we know a lot, right? And as you get older, you do. We know a lot of things, but there's so much we don't know. We'll never know all the things, and we shouldn't. Like the goal is to always keep learning, like always keep learning, always keep exploring, and always stay curious. So I would go through my days and I realized like, and I love to read too. So I'm currently reading a book. Oh my God, I've been reading for 6 months. It's like never ending because it's probably like 700 pages. Just a light little tome. It's the biography of King George III, really like America's last king prior to the Revolutionary War and the writing of the Declaration of Independence and the signing of it. But as I was reading, I'm reading this book and I'm like, oh my God, I love this history stuff. It's incredible. And I'm learning so much. But there's so many things I'm like, wow, the Battle of Yorktown, like I had no idea. I'm going to get all nerdy for a second. I had no idea that in the Battle of Yorktown, actually the French had a huge presence with the colonists, and it was the French Navy out in the waters off of Yorktown, along with their foot soldiers that helped the colonists win that massive battle that was really a turning point in the war against the British. And I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea. So I started kind of going down a rabbit hole and like looking at all of these things. And at the same time, like Tessa's reading, we've watched Hamilton a million times, and she's reading this Hamilton kind of educational book. So we're actually like parallel pathing our Revolutionary War learning. It's again real light stuff. But it's amazing. So as I come across these things in my daily life, I actually created a list on my phone and I call it like my curiosity list, or like what I want to know list. And so whenever I come across these things, I write it down in that list, like the thing I'm curious about. Doesn't matter how small or insignificant it is. It can be like, I mean, Tessa the other day was like, Mom, are there more grains of sand or are there more stars in the sky? I'm like, okay, first of all, who are you asking that question? But second of all, I'm like, I don't know. That's something we need to look up. And for those of you who have kids, they're asking us questions all the time that we don't know the answers to, but I want to know the answers to them. So we have so much fun learning about these little things, Googling them and learning something new, and never, ever, ever being that person who's like, I already knew that. I know that. Duh. Don't you know that? Like, well, how could you not know that, dummy? You're stupid. No. Are you kidding me? Like, learn about these tiny things. It helps to like expand your horizons and broaden your brain and your mindset. And it also helps to rewire your brain to want to learn more things. And you never know how that's going to change your perspective. You never know who you're going to meet by talking about these little tidbits. Did you know things? And it's just so fun to learn things about our past, present, and questions about our future. And just again, it doesn't matter how small or big it is, just keep learning. Write down these things on your curiosity list and keep learning, keep expanding your horizons. Now, one thing that I did, this is a third thing. We all procrastinate. Listen, I can't speak for you. I can only speak for me. But for years, um, I procrastinated. There's so many things I wanted to do for my health and like little things too, but they just felt like overwhelming. Um, and I finally got to the point where, I'm in my 40s and really putting my health first. And as you know, like for the most part, have really stopped drinking and gave up caffeine. But then there are like little things that I really wanted to do. And I'd heard about habit stacking. And I'm sure you've heard the term. And if you haven't, it's basically adding or attaching a new habit to an existing one to make it stick. So, like, for example, if you brush your teeth every day, or at least God help us, I hope that you do. You brush your teeth, then meditate for 1 minute. Like you're like, God, I hate meditating. I can't do it. The minute you're done brushing your teeth, like close your eyes, you're done, meditate for a minute. So you're like attaching a habit, a new habit that you want to do, but you've had a tough time like committing to onto an existing habit. So the way that God, it's such a game changer is with self-care. And I started to habit stack my morning routine and my evening routine. So this might sound like a lot. And in the newsletter, I kind of detail this out. And I also have links to these products that I'm obsessed with that are like changed everything for me. But like little tiny things, all of this takes 10 minutes. But in my head, it was so overwhelming at first. And I'm like, well, let's just actually time this and see how long this takes. So for example, at bedtime, I wash my face. I do my moisturizer routine. It's like very, very simple. It's like I have like 2 different moisturizers I use at nighttime and like a toner. That's it. Super simple. Then I do this. I was like, God, I've heard of this thing called gua sha. And it's basically, it's like lymphatic drainage for your face and different parts of your body. But they have these like, there's like a rose quartz obsidian. It's like a flat, really cool, kind of hard, almost like bean shaped tool, but it's flat. And you can use it in different ways to gua sha your face and to help. It helps with wrinkles. It helps with depuffing. It helps with cooling, and it helps with lymphatic drainage overnight. And I was like, that sounds awesome, but I feel like it's going to take forever. It doesn't. It takes about a minute. So I wash my face, I do the moisturizer, I gua sha. Again, I linked to my favorite tool. Then I take my vitamins and supplements. And if you are like me, I'm not a great vitamin swallower. I just never have been. And I've got about 10 vitamins and supplements I take every single night. And I look at them every night and I've like paired them up, like the big one with a medium sized one with a tiny one. I'm like, I can do these 3. And then I've got like 2 big ones with another medium sized one. I'm like, that's fine. And then I've got like a small one with a medium and another big one. And I'm like, okay, I can get all of these down in 3 different things. And that takes about a minute. And I'm every night getting out of my head when I look at all of these vitamins, being like, okay, you're not going to choke on them. You can swallow them. You can do it. If you're like me, I know there are other people out there like this. It's just not an easy thing for me to do. It's incredible to me that we can just like chug whatever we want out in the world, and we can take massive bites of things like hamburgers and shove it down into our gullet. But I look at like 3 little pills and my world ends. But when I habit stacked it, after I do the gua sha, I take the vitamins and the supplements because I know there's another step coming after this. Then part of that is drinking a 16-ounce glass of water. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to drink water. Well, I can do that by taking my vitamins and supplements. And then in that water, I had heard about these detox drops by a brand called Sakara. Sakara is like it's beautiful meal delivery services that I used a few years ago. It's not cheap, just FYI, but I used it when I was working in my last job for convenience. But they also have these detox chlorophyll drops for a nighttime, and they have these mineral drops in the morning for to kick off your day that you put in water. So I put the detox chlorophyll drops in the water, use that to take my pill. So it's like boom, boom, boom. Then I do hand lotion and I do cuticle oil. I know this sounds like a lot, but it's not. And if you haven't tried cuticle oil, it's like a little tincture thing, and you do a dab, dab, dab on every single finger, and then you just rub it in with the other hand. And then I hit the sheets. And as I go to sleep, like all 3 of us wear these sleep silk masks or silk sleep masks. It's hard to say. And within 10 minutes, I'm in bed. And again, it might sound like, Jesus Christ, Christy, that's a lot of stuff. It's really not, but I've habit stacked all of those things. And in the past 2 years, it is like, if I don't do even one of those things, it's like a red alert in my brain. Like I am so used to it. I've wired the neural pathways to get this stuff done. And it's the same thing in the morning, although far more simple. But literally the first, so at nighttime when I'm done with all this, by the way, I refill my water glass and put the magnesium or the mineral drops. I think it's trace mineral, excuse me, that's what it's called from Sakara. Trace mineral drops in my 16-ounce glass of water, and it's sitting there ready for me to go first thing in the morning. So when I wake up and I get up, the first thing I do is go to the restroom and I drink 16 ounces of water with the trace minerals. It like without a doubt, and it changes everything. It starts your entire day so well. It makes you more regular. It wakes up your systems. It wakes up your body. It helps to get in like, a significant amount of the water that you're going to start drinking in the morning. It's a win-win overall. So whatever you are procrastinating or don't want to do, habit stack it, attach it to something that you already do. And it's so much easier. Okay, two more. And again, if you want to see the entire list, these are all written out on my newsletter this week and on my website. So again, feel free to visit that, christybishop.com. This is one thing that I work with my coaching clients on a lot. And I work on my mom with this too. But this is something that I tell a lot of people, especially right now, as people are kind of going down this negative wormhole. And it's so easy to do that given everything that's going on in the world. And similarly, I say it's equally easy, if not easier, to go down a spiral of negative self-talk towards yourself, like criticizing your body, shaming yourself for something you did or didn't do, or going over a conversation in your head and what you said or didn't say a million times, or telling yourself lies about your abilities or like what you can and can't do. It's just bullshit. Like we just tell ourselves these terrible things. So a game-changing exercise that's so easy is that every time you have a negative thought, immediately balance it out with a positive one. Like, man, I like, whatever. Oh God, I just feel so gross today. Or my face looks so puffy, or man, I hate the way that I said that, or whatever it might be. Nope. Flip it immediately. Like, it can be so simple. Man, it's such a beautiful sunny day today. I love those flowers in our front yard. Look how beautiful those roses are blooming. Tessa is such a beautiful, amazing, incredible soul. I'm so lucky to be her mom. Just the smallest, simplest things. So as you start to say all this horrible shit to yourself and in your head or out loud or just about the world, whatever is pulling you down that negativity wormhole, immediately balance it with a positive thought, because it can make the biggest difference. And most importantly, you can actually rewire your brain, rewire your neural pathways to prioritize the positive instead of the negative. And again, a lot of my coaching clients struggle with this as they're caregiving. They go straight to the negative because, God, it's so easy to do when you're living in such an incredibly difficult moment in time in your life, in your loved one's life. But the more you can flip and even just give us a simple moment or a simple token of gratitude for something and a really simple positive statement, it will genuinely help to reframe your brain. And I cannot recommend it more enough. Okay, last one. Which one do I want to do? Okay, let's do this is something I've coined, and it is called my puzzle piece theory. And there's a very good chance I might write a book about this one day. I'm putting it out into the universe because everyone keeps telling me I need to write a book, and I will, and I don't know what it's going to be about. So if you have any ideas, let me know. But that's in the future, without a doubt. And the puzzle piece theory goes like this. So if you look back at your life, every single thing, like from your best days to your hardest moments, they have all fallen into place exactly as they were meant to. Exactly when and where and how they were meant to. And more importantly, you have survived every single one of those days, good, bad, and otherwise. So with the puzzle piece theory, like, you really remember that there's a bigger picture at play, and that helps you get through the minutia of the moment. The things that honestly that we don't understand, we don't have to understand, or the things that we find really difficult or even impossible to process. So even if you can't understand it, even if none of it makes sense, All you need to do is just do your best to get through it. And one day you will have the perspective to see exactly why it happened and where it took your life next. And honestly, it's always to a better place, even if it's the world's worst thing. And you're like, why is this happening to me? This is so fucked. Everything about this is fucked. Like someone might be dying. You might be losing your job. You might be going through things called like a shamanic death, which is just a major, major, major moment of something ending in your life that is just hugely critical. I'm not going to get insanely woo-woo on that right now, but big, massive things in your life that just don't make any sense. And you're like, things are falling apart and everything is over. It's actually not. When you have enough runway in life, again, like I feel like I have the privilege of a decent amount of runway at this point in time. And if I'm lucky, I'm halfway through, maybe a little bit less. But I look backwards at some of the moments where I was on the floor, and I'm not being facetious, like literally on the floor, panic attack situation for something going on with Brian's insurance or my Cobra or being out of work or him, his tumor starting to grow again. Whatever it is, it always worked out and it always fell into place exactly as was meant as exactly as it was meant to, excuse me. And that gives me so much solace now. When I get really anxious now, I just start to do some like deep breathing. I love me a good box breath, 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, hold for 4. Or you can do like 4, 7, 8, breathe in through your nose for 4 counts, hold it for 7 and breathe out of your mouth slowly for 8 counts. That helps to reset your nervous system. And if you remember that with the puzzle piece theory, you can really just surrender and release and realize it's all going to work out. Like life is working for us, not against us. It's working for you, not against you, and for me, not against me. And we can't go into life thinking it's our opponent, that it's our enemy, because it's not. We need to surrender and work with it. And the puzzle piece theory helps you do just that because it gives you confidence in the fact that it is working just exactly as it should be for you, for your highest benefit. So those are the things that I wanted to share today. Again, if you want to subscribe to my newsletter, I would love it. Or if you want to share this with a friend who might be helpful, please do so. You can find all of the episodes of What Nobody Tells Us and the 1-year anniversary, all of the episodes everywhere. They're linked in this newsletter. They are also found on any podcast platform where you may love to listen, particularly Apple, Spotify, et cetera, Libsyn, all of those wonderful places, iHeartRadio. But you can find every episode on christybishop.com. You can find all my newsletters. You can find all of the times that I've done speaking engagements and just all of the incredible work that has come out of What Nobody Tells Us that I hope has helped. I know it's helped me in so many ways over the years, but I hope is helping you. And just the feedback from all of you on the different topics and recommendations for topics. And honestly, the way that you have all supported this show and this idea, this concept has been incredible. And I cannot thank you enough because this doesn't exist without you. It doesn't. So thank you for listening out there, having me in your ears, if you're walking, if you're working out, if you're cooking, if you're meditating, whatever. I don't know. I don't think I have a voice to meditate to, but who knows? People are different. Everyone need different strokes for different folks. But I cannot thank you enough. And I'm so excited to see where this next chapter takes all of us together. So thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I will see you next time.